Kara Shalom, welcome to our watercolor journey. We have a very beautiful landscape for you today, and it was a fairly easy one. We're going to focus on the flat wash in the background. The materials used are listed in the description below. Keep a card and a spray bottle handy because you're going to need it later. The paper is at a 45-degree angle, and you can use a Hake or a large flat brush to wet the paper thoroughly. The Hake holds quite a lot of water, and it is a very interesting brush because you can get really smooth washes with it. Once you've wet the paper, you are going to start with a French Ultramarine and a little bit of the neutral tint, and then some of the French Ultramarine and Sepia mix to do the sky area. You want a really cold sky, cool colors at the top, so that the foreground, which is going to be quite warm, can stand out a little bit more. Long smooth strokes, and the paint will flow down the paper, and that's quite fine. You are going to pick up some of that paint later on to add to your horizon line. Now when you come closer to the front of the page or the bottom of the page, then we are going to use the warmer colors, Quinacridone Gold, Raw Sienna and Transparent Sienna. The Quin Gold is a nice bright color, and it will give you a nice distinction between the cool sky and the warmer background. Pick up some of the water at the bottom of the paper and spread that into your foreground. If you use the diagonal lines, you are going to give more texture and definition to your foreground, and it won't be just a flat space. You can also use the same unwashed brush to add some basics for the elements that you are going to add. This is just the first layer, so you don't have to be precise. Just a few dots and dashes. Let your brush dance over the paper. By picking up some of the water at the bottom, you are also spreading the color wider over the page, and that brings harmony in your composition. You can basically use all the colors on your palette to complete your horizon line or to fill in your horizon line. These trees have a lot of sunshine in it, it has a lot of shadow in it, so you can use any of your colors. If there's still some water at the bottom of the page, you can use a dried out brush or a paper towel to pick up the water. Now you can let the background dry thoroughly. Once it's dry, you can see it's quite dull at the back, but now we are going to add the elements which will stand out nicely. Now this Da Vinci brush, it has an extended point. It's also called a needle point, and it has a very fat belly and a very fine tip. And because the belly is so fat, it holds quite a lot of paint, and then the tip can go very thin. So it's a handy brush to have if you want to just do your trees or anything that needs enough paint but also enough detail to make it interesting. It is a brush that you need to get used to. If you're not used to it, it is quite difficult to use, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually a very handy brush. You are using the darker colors on the right, lighter colors on the left, and then ground the trees. Now look what an interesting thing happened there. The tip was used to underline the trees, and the belly touched a little further down, so you immediately got your shadow part there without any effort. You can also use the tip together with the belly here to create your leaves, and it gives you different textures immediately without having to think about it even. It just happens. Once you are happy with your trees, you can let the whole thing dry again. You are going to layer a lot, so it's good to let it dry properly again. Right, the next step we are going to do is to start to establish the tree line on the left. Now this one is further away, further to the back, and to show that, you are going to use the cooler colors, the grays and the blues. Here and there, as it goes closer to the middle of the page, you will add a few warmer colors, but basically you will stick to the darker or the cooler colors, the blue, the neutral tint, and so on. Keep having the lay of the terrain in mind so that you keep the V shape, the diagonal lines, because that will also give depth in the middle of your painting. The further away you go, the lighter you want it to be. We want a lot of smooth transitions here, so you will notice that it makes a little bit of a hard line at the top on the left, where the tree line has a base on the terrain, but we will manage that just now. So in the foreground, you want your warm colors, and you can use the browns there and a little bit of the neutral tint sepia just to add shadows, but mainly the transparent sienna, Quinacridone Gold, and raw sienna. Don't be too precise with the shadows of the trees. They just need to give the illusion that there's a shadow. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as the tree shape. Use the cut up store card to draw in some lighter lines here. Now where the paint has dried a little bit, the card will push it away and cause white lines. But where the paint is still very wet, the card makes a darker line because the paint flows into the scratch. And that is permanent, so be careful how you do it. You can also splatter a little bit to give texture to your terrain. Use a thin brush to add a few more grass stalks. It is always handy to have the thin brushes ready because your grass stalks aren't always the same width, and to make broader, shorter, longer strokes makes your terrain a little bit more interesting as well. Add a little bit of shadow to the right hand side of your trees, as it is the shadow side. And it also gives your tree a little bit more dimension. If you want to, you can fill out the trees a bit more with some more branches, some more leaves. This is where a thin brush comes in handy as well, because you can literally just make a few squiggles and it actually looks like branches and leaves on a tree. keep your touch light. It is always very important not to press too hard, not to be too precise when you make a landscape like this. Let your imagination just flow and use the brush as an extension of your hand. Now on this side we are going to add a few squiggles to resemble dry trees, dry branches that's just sticking up from the background trees. And you will see there are quite a few hard lines that bring the elements a little bit forward from the softer lines in the first wash. That's how you create your depth and dimension in the painting. The difference or the variation between hard lines and soft lines. Now here we had a hard line at the bottom, and I said to you earlier that we will fix it. So just spray a little bit of water on it and allow it to flow. You can soften it with a brush, but it looks more organic and natural if you spray it with a spray bottle, because then the paint can flow anywhere it wants to. You can build out the trees a little bit more if you like, add some more shadows. It's always good to make sure that you have a good variation between light and dark. And of course, a landscape is never complete if there isn't a little bird or two. And they are the easiest to make. A quick tick mark, and there you go, you have your birds. The smaller the mark, the further away the birds look. The bigger it is, the closer the birds. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope that you've learned something from this one. Please like and subscribe, and leave us a comment if you have used Quinacridone Gold. Have a very nice day. Vaya con Dios.